Picture the massive departure board at JFK Airport. Thousands of stressed travelers are staring at it, waiting for their gate assignment. If the computer running that screen freezes for even 5 seconds, absolute panic ensues.
Oh yeah, total chaos.
Right. So today our mission for this deep dive is unpacking the HDTVSupply spec sheet for the exact device that guarantees that freeze never happens. We are looking at the Smart-AVI MXWallPRO-3232-S. We're decoding what this piece of AV equipment actually does and, why massive public venues absolutely rely on it to the tune of $22,680.
It is a really hefty price tag for sure.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Think of this device as the ultimate Grand Central Station for video feeds. But instead of trains crossing paths and waiting on shared tracks, it is directing up to 32 inputs to 32 different screens simultaneously. It gives every single feed its own dedicated high-speed tunnel.
And managing that kind of uncompressed visual traffic is just an architectural nightmare. Routing 32 simultaneous HDMI streams requires moving a colossal amount of data, every single microsecond, without dropping a single frame.
Right, which brings up my biggest question here. To justify that almost $23,000 price tag, why can't venues just build a massively overpowered PC? Throw in some top-tier graphics cards. You can buy a literal supercomputer for a fraction of that cost. Why stick a dedicated 30-pound metal box into a server rack?
Well, what's fascinating here is the fundamental difference in the processing architecture. A PC, no matter how much RAM or GPU power you throw at it, relies on software and a general-purpose operating system.
Like Windows or Linux.
Exactly. It processes video like a traffic cop directing cars at a busy intersection. The CPU has to split its attention. If a background process runs, or the OS decides to index a file, the video processing just has to wait.
Oh, and that bottleneck is what gives you the spinning wheel of death.
Precisely. And you definitely cannot have a blue screen of death showing up on a Times Square billboard.
No, definitely not.
So the MXWall Pro bypasses software processing entirely. It's a 100% hardware-based matrix. It uses dedicated silicon pathways, specialized chips where the video data travels through physical logic gates. The data doesn't wait in a queue for a processor. It just flows continuously.
Wait, so that physical engineering is what guarantees the zero delay and the 204/7 reliability.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But looking at the specs, the exorbitant cost isn't about pushing cutting-edge resolutions. This system achieves its massive 32 by 32 configuration using 8 modular input and output cards, and they just have HDMI 1.4 connectors. It even has an integrated scaler that standardizes everything to 1080p at 60 Hz. 1080p is practically ancient tech at this point.
Yeah, that is the real aha moment with this spec sheet. You aren't paying 22 grand for Ultra HD resolution. You're paying for the physical engineering required to push them to uncompressed high-bandwidth streams continuously, and doing that without a microsecond of heat-induced thermal throttling.
So it scales everything to 1080p because it's just safer.
Right. In mission-critical environments, rock-solid stability always beats 4K pixels that might glitch out.
Okay, that makes total sense. But it raises a huge logistical issue. If this thing is essentially a highly advanced, dumb physical switchboard inside, how do you actually tell it what to do? Am I physically unplugging and swapping HDMI cables every time airport security wants to pull up a different camera feed?
Oh, thankfully, no. The hardware handles the heavy lifting of routing the data, but the control layer sits on top of it. It keeps the user experience totally separate from the raw processing.
Oh, okay. Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the way a user interacts with it is basically like being a digital orchestra conductor. You aren't dealing with the wiring, you're just pointing the baton. You can command the system to stretch one massive image across all 32 screens, split them into distinct groupings, or map them one-to-one.
And orchestrating that is remarkably streamlined. You handle the initial configuration via this free Windows software. That is where you map out your matrix setups, dial in the aspect ratios, and even push custom venue logos directly into the hardware's memory.
But I'm guessing security guards aren't hauling a Windows desktop around the terminal to change a screen on the fly.
No, definitely not. Once it's set up, you can trigger those instant adjustments through a free Android app. Or, for venues with automated command centers, it natively supports TCP/IP and RS-232 controls.
Wow.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this plug-and-play adaptability is exactly why it's the brain behind critical environments like airports, high-stakes security stations, and massive shopping malls. They need hardware that routes complex physical data seamlessly, while giving their operators a simple, foolproof interface.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, the MXWall Pro isn't just an overgrown splitter. It's a highly specialized, real-time brain engineered for critical visual displays. It prioritizes physical hardware reliability over software processing. The next time you're walking through an airport terminal and you see a massive video wall flawlessly updating flight times the very second they change, you will know exactly the kind of heavy-duty, zero-lag tech running quietly behind the scenes.
Which really leaves us with a pretty daunting question for the future of commercial AV. If this 30-pound, $22,000 piece of equipment is what it takes just to route 1080p video flawlessly in real time, what kind of astronomical processing power and cost is going to be required when our public spaces inevitably transition to massive 8K video walls?
Man, Grand Central Station is definitely going to need a serious upgrade.